Welcome to another Demarcation Media Mega Construx review. Today we have the G.I. Joe Skystriker vs. Cobra H.I.S Tank. Actually just Cobra H.I.S, but it sounds better to say H.I.S Tank. This was something we did not at all expect as a community. I feel like I can speak for everybody when I say that, because it was like Hasbro, Mattel, they don't play well together, that sort of thing. But then they started doing collaborations, and then we got leaks for G.I. Joe figures, and nobody knew where they were going to be coming, and this is our answer. So, let's go ahead and get this box open. So this set was, and I believe will continue to be, Mattel Creations exclusive. Now, that also does mean that it was available on Hasbro Pulse because, you know, this is Hasbro's IP, and I'm sure they want to be able to sell it. So, it was on Hasbro Pulse, but it sold out there. It was still available on Mattel Creations last I knew, but don't expect to see this in stores. Don't expect to see this on Amazon unless it's for scalpers. It's Mattel Creations exclusive. So keep that in mind. I don't want to have comments from people saying, oh, where can I buy this? Why can't I find it in stores? It's exclusive. It's an online Mattel exclusive. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Look at that box. Wow. That is nice. That's really nice. I love how much they've been going into making their boxes look more collector friendly. The Fallout set did that, and this went all out. I mean, this is styled to look like one of the original G.I. Joe toys. Now, full disclaimer, I am not a G.I. Joe fan. I never collected G.I. Joe stuff. This is my first real experience with any G.I. Joe products. But I am a Mega fan, and I do like me a good jet. So, I'm very excited for this. This might turn me into a G.I. Joe fan. We'll see. But yeah, Mega also started doing this like effect. It's like a almost cartoonified effect. You get to see the H.I.S Tank there around the side. Oh, that's pretty nice. And this side's got the jet. I actually really like that. A faction on each side. On the top, we get to see, kind of looking like old instructions, the functionality of the jet. And around the back, we still have that old instructions kind of style. Get to see a shot of the set up there. Get to see some art of the figures. We've got wheels. I wonder if the wheels are retractable or not. I'm going to be a little bit disappointed if they're not, but we'll see. So, now we need to get this thing open. As is standard for recent Mega sets, you just have 2 pieces of tape to slice to get this thing open, which means it is very collector friendly in terms of keeping the box intact. So you just pop that open and voila, there is all the parts. So we got a bunch of white, some very brightly colored pieces. We've got, there's 2 of our figures. Oh, that's a lot of printed pieces. Where are the other figures? Aha! I actually really like that. They put the good guys and the bad guys in separate little bags. And this is a set that you can build in tandem with somebody else. So you have a instruction booklet for the H.I.S Tank and an instruction booklet for the Skystriker, which looks really, really nice, actually. So, this will have been built live. If you want to see that replay, I will put it up in the corner. And we are going to go ahead and get back as soon as this is all put together. And there is the whole set all put together. It honestly was a very fast build, very smooth build. I did expect detail in a few more parts, which we'll talk about later. We do get a ton of extra pieces, lots of little ones, some bright yellow. Those are temporary pieces. But not anything hugely of note, except for like some missile pieces. So actually, if you wanted to, you could make yourself a little tiny missile. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, a lot of extras. You did not build something wrong if you have that many extras. That's just how these Mega sets work these days. So let's go ahead, jump in, look at the figures, starting with our pilot. And here he is. So this is Ace. Those of you who are G.I. Joe fans will this will have some meaning to you. I did not know this guy until I saw this Mega figure. You get a stand that's very Halo Heroes-esque along with him. And then the figure himself has a bunch of new parts. I don't think that the arms are new. I think those were in the Call of Duty line potentially. But that chest plate is new for sure. And the legs are new. And the waist unit is new. He's got a bunch of print work all over. Now, he looks rather like an astronaut. It's a little strange. I have a hard time seeing a fighter jet pilot and just like a classic astronaut. But his helmet does come off, which is pretty nice. And underneath, he has a pretty nice looking head. That's not bad. There's a little peg hole in the top, and the helmet actually has a peg on the inside. That's kind of how it stays on. So you can move his head around inside, but you do have to remove the helmet each time. He also can't look up and down very much in the helmet because of the peg. The new chest plate looks really nice. The new legs are pretty goofy, but I believe it's accurate to the original toy, so props to Mega for getting that right. Now, all of the figures have some minor issue when it comes to quality control. This guy's issue is that the forearm does not stick into the upper arm properly. This is an easy fix. All you have to do is heat up that upper arm with a hairdryer and then push the forearm in harder. And then you'll be fine. The knees are also pretty loose, but that's not that big of a deal. So overall, really well done. Again, for those of you who are G.I. Joe fans, this character will mean something to you. For me, I am just now learning about him. He looks a little goofy to me, but again, some nice pieces. On the opposing side, the kind of opposite in this set to Ace is the H.I.S.S Driver. This guy comes with a stand as well. This is in dark blue. All of the Cobra guys have dark blue stands, and then all of the Joes have green stands, which is pretty cool. This guy has a new torso, new head. He uses the same new legs as Ace does, and then he has that same new waist unit. That's pretty cool. I like the torso a lot. It's very well molded. The print work on there is great. That little cobra on the chest is fantastic. The print work overall is great, except for on the head. I feel like the visor is not great. Hopefully this is not like the rule and other people's are done better, but it's got some dings on it and it doesn't go all the way to one side, which is a bit unfortunate. This guy looks also very goofy to me. He looks rather bird-like. But again, this is one that's very recognizable. His issue is the arm doesn't go all the way into the torso. Again, it's pretty easy. You just heat up the torso with a hairdryer and shove that into place. Not too bad. This guy does not have any accessories, any extra stuff. Again, the knees are kind of loose. But yeah, he doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't have any extra heads or anything. He's just here to drive the H.I.S.S and probably to get shot at by Ace or Duke. And speaking of Duke, here he is. This guy is probably my favorite out of the whole lineup of figures in this set. He's got a stand, of course, slide that off to the side. This guy, I like him because he very much makes me think of the Call of Duty Mega or the Halo, like Marines and stuff. So he instantly catches my eye more. He does come with a weapon. This is a new mold for like a little machine gun. Somebody in the comments can tell me what this is supposed to be based off of. It's pretty nice looking, although I will say the barrel is cut at a funny angle on mine. I don't know if all of them were that way, but I think that needs some trimming and sanding, unfortunately. And the barrel is too thin to fit a muzzle flare. But he can pose really nicely with it. I'm actually a huge fan of how easily you can get nice shooting poses with this little gun. And then the figure himself has mostly existing parts. He's got the new waist unit. He's got a new belt across the chest, a new helmet, a new head, and a new strap piece. This strap piece is like a little knife. Mine actually came with it assembled upside down, so it was upside down on the leg. You can just fix that. He also has a brand new parachute backpack, or I believe it's brand new. There could have been a Call of Duty set that had it and I just didn't notice, but this is the first time I've seen it. He's got an American flag printed on one arm, which is absolutely fantastic. He uses Call of Duty boots, but then Halo thighs, so he is in the Halo scale. His head is really nice, actually. I'm impressed. The hair is done really good. He looks very similar to his larger action figure counterparts. And then we've got this new helmet now that can be used for many different characters. So this guy's quality issue is that his waist swivel is like, he's not stuck all the way onto it, and also his head is loose. Again, not terrible issues. You could completely ignore it, and this guy would still be a ton of fun to mess around with. But yeah, it's just little things. It's like, oh, it's not quite there. I feel like this guy fits in pretty nicely with Halo stuff as well. So again, that's kind of why I like him. And he's the leader, so he's kind of like the main dude here. Lastly, and probably the most exciting for a lot of people, we have the Cobra Commander. I do know that this guy has been a fan favorite for a while, and I think Mega did a pretty good job here. I do think that the little fins on the back of the helmet could have stuck out more. Now, these could have been based on the original toys, which I'm not familiar with. I just have seen in a lot of the art, the fins stick out a little bit more, almost like a Imperial Navy trooper. But other than that, the visor is actually done pretty well. Like, the edges are pretty sharp. The chest has the Cobra print on it, which is nice. And they've done white underneath of it so that you can actually see it against the blue. Same waist unit. I think that's a new torso. I'm pretty darn sure, because it's got like stuff on the back. And he comes armed. So each faction here gets one weapon, which is a little like, I kind of would have wished to see a weapon for every figure. But this is a new piece. It looks pretty accurate, I guess, to what he has, but it's also a little bit weird. It's a weird gun. But overall, I feel like this is done very well. A very iconic character, done pretty much perfectly, in my opinion. Now, this guy's issue is pretty much the same as the H.I.S tank, or driver. Sorry, not tank. H.I.S driver. It just wobbles, the arm wobbles in the socket for both sides. Again, pretty easy fix. Heat it up, push the arm in, and you should be good to go. Interestingly, this guy is not the same blue as the recent Fallout Soul Survivor figure. I thought it was going to be the same, but no, they actually did an entirely different shade of blue for this guy. Mega is not shy about just creating new colors in their part system to make sure that they get something as accurate as possible. All right, starting off the builds, we have our little Cobra H.I.S. Now, I keep wanting to call it a H.I.S tank because it looks like a tank to me, but I've been told this is not actually a tank. So we're going to give it a quick size comparison with a Warthog. This is definitely smaller. Height-wise, about the same, but it's a little shorter. It's got more mass, though, to be honest. So the Warthog is a bit more lanky. This is a bit more chibi. I have heard people complaining about the size. They're like, oh, the H.I.S is too small. It's too small. It's too small. However, when you put a figure next to it, the scale of the figure to the H.I.S is pretty much the same as the old figures scale to the original H.I.S from the photos that I've seen. So I don't feel like there's much wrong here. However, Jang, who did a review of this, I'll pop the card up in the corner for Jang's review, because if you haven't watched it, you should. But he was pointing out that this cockpit is too angular and that should be smooth. I think that's probably what's throwing people off here. That's what's making them think that it's too big or something. It's really the curve of the cockpit that's wrong. This is a very like snow speeder looking cockpit, whereas the H.I.S actually has a very smooth one. So that's a bit of like a eh. But we do have print all over the vehicle, which is pretty nice. Mega just doesn't do stickers anymore, which is great. Also, there's a hitch back here. That implies they may be planning more sets, because there's like the attach-on thing with the missiles and whatnot. That's encouraging. That's very encouraging to see. The little gun on the top has a print for little controls on the back, as well as the Cobra logo on the front. You can pop the Cobra Commander in there. That's pretty easy. He just literally sets down in there if you get his foot in the right position. There we go. So he can set down in there. It can still rotate. And then you can also put the H.I.S Driver in there. Now, I did notice that these little side bits can be a little bit fragile because they're only attached on by a few studs. I was hoping that they would reinforce it a little bit somehow, but they did not. But we can just go ahead and pop our dude in here. There is no, like, controls, nothing in terms of controls. Also, you do need to make sure he's sitting down in there, because otherwise the cockpit won't fit down over top of him. Like, it's pretty exact in terms of how you have to get him in there. But once you get him in there, he is in there and he is all ready to go. That's pretty cool. And then the final thing of note here is the treads are actually real treads. So you can roll it along. It's pretty nice. There is some concern about how the treads will age. I'm hoping that they've changed their rubber compound enough that it will last better. But for now, I am pretty happy that they did real treads and not fake treads and wheels underneath. I know the original toy had that, but this is just so much cooler. So overall, The real downside of this is just that cockpit. And here is the final build, the big one, the Skystriker itself. Now, I believe this is based off of an F14 Tomcat. I could be wrong, so somebody can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I don't have one of Mega's original jets to show alongside of it, unfortunately. But I am going to do a bit of a size comparison here with a Wasp, because I feel like that's a similar type of vehicle. The Wasp is only about half the size of the Skystriker, and the Skystriker has some very, very cool things going on. So first, we get a brand new cockpit piece and a nose piece, which I'm super happy about. So that's great. There's also these new intake pieces. There's new wings, and the wings have the moving feature. So they're geared together, so if you move one, you move both. That's awesome. There's no like mechanism to actually just move it without just moving the wings. There is print all over this thing, all over. So that's also great. I love that Mega's doing that. There's a ton of missiles on the underside. They are attached on by like single studs, so you can easily get them out of alignment. I was a little disappointed with the underside, to be honest. I was hoping that there would be a bit more like smoothing off, and I was hoping that the wheels could like retract somehow. Now the wheels retracting, that was a bit of perhaps a pipe dream, but I would have at least liked to see a bit more smoothing down here. However, this is based on the original toy, so they may have shaped it that way to properly reflect that. I don't really know. I'm not familiar with that original toy. Get our thrusters on the back, get our wings on the back. The figures do fit in the cockpit, so the cockpit opens, figures do fit. There is nothing in terms of control detail in there at all. And again, I don't know if they did that to really represent the original toy, but I would have liked to see at least a print in there. The figures do look good in there. Unfortunately, Duke can't have his parachute pack. You'd think he'd want to have his parachute pack in the jet so he could jump out. I don't really know where else he'd be using that pack, but you have to take it off. And the last thing I kind of wanted to point out in terms of maybe a complaint is something that Jang pointed out, and that's the intakes don't have any sort of black print to make it look like there's actually space in there. It's just white. Other than that, though, this thing is pretty sturdy. It's very swooshable. It looks really cool. Looks very sleek. The wings extending is an awesome feature. And it's also just great to get a jet from Mega again, because Call of Duty line's been dead for a bit now, and that was the real place that we were getting it. We did get that weird Top Gun set that was like a tiny jet, and that wasn't that great. But yeah, overall, this is pretty sturdy. You do have to be a little careful where you grab, because this thing can get in the way, and then the missiles can kind of disjoint. But other than that, very swooshable. I've found myself swooshing it around the room more than once. And I'm just looking at this going, if you had the original toy as a kid, seeing this now is probably so cool. Like, Mega just does such a good job at recreating stuff. And the fact that they're willing to do print work for all of it is fantastic. Heck, there's even like names of the people in the jet on the cockpit. Now, that other name is not Duke, as far as I know. It's not Duke. So they've already planned for a co-pilot here, maybe, question mark. Also, does this type of jet not have any like machine guns mounted on it? Because I don't see any machine guns. And there you have it. That is the first ever Mega G.I. Joe set. As a whole, I think this is a pretty great way to start the line. We got 4 very iconic characters. We have 2 very iconic vehicles. My main complaint is just I kind of wish that there was some extra weapons for the 2 pilots. And of course, because I'm a sucker for terrain, I always wish that there was terrain. Like something terrain-wise would have been awesome. But that doesn't really feel like it fits the set. That's just me saying I just want more terrain. I have heard people complaining and saying that they wish that the H.I.S was a separate set and the jet was a separate set because they just want to army build the H.I.S and don't necessarily want to army build the jet. I understand that, but I feel like to start off, since it's the beginning of a new line that they've never done before, doing them both in a single pack and you getting both factions makes sense. I think that they could in the future do another H.I.S in different colors, because I know they've done recolors. So a single set of say a red H.I.S or whatever could be a thing. Price-wise, $80 feels a little steep, except for when you start actually thinking it through. Unfortunately, when you break down the price, it really does come out to be basically what we can expect for a reasonably priced set these days, especially seeing as this is a license that Mattel doesn't own, so they have to pay licensing fees and whatnot for that. As a whole, it feels pretty solid. It is nice, though, that we get, you know, G.I. Joe, because they did He-Man, so if you were around for that era, you can now have your G.I. Joe figures with He-Man, and now you can also slap it alongside Halo and Fallout, and heck, even like Assassin's Creed. So that's really cool to me. As a whole, I'm pretty happy with this, even though I'm not a G.I. Joe fan, and I'm anxiously awaiting to see if they continue this, because to make this be a one-off set would be a massive, massive missed opportunity, because G.I. Joe's been around for so long, and there's so many characters and so many vehicles. To just let this be a one-off would severely, severely just hurt the brand, I think. So, let me know down in the comments. Are you a G.I. Joe fan? Is this something that interests you? Are you not a G.I. Joe fan, but this caught your eye kind of the way that it did for me? Or is this just one that you're like, I just kind of want more Halo? Because I understand I want more Halo 2, but not more Halo 2, more Halo as well. But I also do want to see Mega have more licenses available. I don't want Mega to just be the Halo brand. I want them to do Halo, but I miss the days when there was Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and Destiny. Like, we had all kinds of stuff. So it's nice to see more brands being added to the Mega retinue. I just hope that they don't eschew Halo completely. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.